My name is Ella Winters, and I'm 33 years old. I was born the youngest daughter of the prestigious Hoyt family in Vermont, the one that owns half the town's medical facilities and all of its secrets. While my sister Delaney was the golden child, groomed to inherit the family empire, I was the one they whispered about behind closed doors, the rebellious one, the failure, the girl who vanished at 22 and was never spoken of again. For over a decade, I lived with the kind of silence that leaves scars deeper than memory. They thought they'd buried me for good. But today, I walked into her wedding, uninvited, unannounced, and with more power than any of them can imagine. And when the groom saw me, he turned pale because he knew exactly who I was. The wind outside grafted in and sliced through my coat as I stepped onto the marble, my heels clicking like a countdown. A valet turned just in time to miss the edge of my stare. Inside, the ballroom smelled of wealth and lilacs. Old money. Orchids imported for the day. Chandeliers shimmered like weaponized glass. I didn't stop to admire the setup. I wasn't here to applaud. The hostess barely glanced at my name tag. E. Winters, guest of groom's party. My invitation hadn't come from anyone with the last name Hoyt. A whisper under the music. She looks like someone I used to know. Eyes darted. Necklaces stiffened. Champagne halted midair. I kept walking. The moment I passed the double doors, time fractured. The music didn't stop, but the energy shifted, like a glass table about to crack. My sister Delaney stood under a cascade of white roses.
Vera Wing.
Perfect smile. Back curved in elegant defiance. And then there was him.
Rowan Hale.
Dr. Rowan Hale, vascular surgeon, former research fellow at North Harbor Institute, now husband-to-be of my sister, and the man who'd unknowingly taken millions in funding from me. Our eyes met. He dropped his glass. The sound wasn't loud, but it tore through the ballroom like a scream in a chapel. Delaney turned just in time to see the red in his face, the way his jaw unhinged. She followed his gaze. Her smile froze, pixelated.
Ella.
Her voice cracked like something brittle inside her chest. Rowan's hands trembled. He took one step back. Another. He bumped into a waiter, who fumbled and spilled white wine down a silk dress. The woman gasped. People started whispering. Wait, who is she? Did you see his face? I didn't blink. Rowan tried to speak. You. He swallowed. You weren't supposed to be here. I smiled just slightly. Neither were you. His pupils blew wide. He turned to Delaney. You didn't tell me she was, he choked. I stepped closer, enough for him to hear me under the murmurs. You married into a lie, Rowan. Hope the prenup's fireproof. His skin turned the color of ash. I saw his hands, clenched tight at his sides, then loosen. His lips parted.
Jesus Christ.
No, I said. Just me. Delaney lunged forward, voice louder now. What are you doing here, Ella? My name is on the guest list. She laughed once, sharp, unsteady. As what? Ghost of Christmas past. I prefer financial architect of your future. Rowan staggered again. His breath was shallow now. Because he remembered. He remembered the name behind the money. The investor who funded the Hale Initiative, who saved his dying research lab. The one he never met in person, hidden behind a shell corporation and NDAs. EW Holdings. His voice was barely audible. Your EW. A camera flash. Someone gasped. I tilted my head. You always wanted to be part of the family, Delaney hissed. Funny, I said. I built the one you're trying to marry into. The ballroom began to ripple. Conversations turned acidic. I glanced at the photographer. He lowered his lens, confused. I turned toward the bar. A glass of bourbon was waiting. Rowan still hadn't moved. Just breathing. You weren't supposed to exist, he whispered. That's when I knew. It wasn't me he feared. It was what I knew. If he's this scared of me showing up, what exactly did he marry my sister for?
Đã dùng 72% bộ nhớ nếu hết bộ nhớ, thì bạn không thể lưu tệp vào đời dài hoặc sử dụng Gmail.
The bourbon burned down my throat like truth. I turned the glass in my hand, watching the amber ripple. The chandelier above me swayed just enough to catch my peripheral. Not from wind. Someone had bumped it. Or someone wanted me to think they had. Nothing about tonight was coincidence. A man in a charcoal suit stood by the wall, pretending to check his watch. No wedding ring. Eyes too alert. Shoes too dull for a guest list this rich. He stepped forward. Ella Winters? His voice didn't match the room. Too calm. Too practiced. Like a man used to saying things people didn't want to hear. I didn't nod. He flashed a badge. Not loudly. Just a flick of the inner lapel. Gold glint. Faint letters. Investigator Ames Calder. Financial crimes. I smiled like the gun was already cocked. You're crashing too? I asked. He didn't smile back. We need to talk. Privately. I set the glass down untouched. Followed him through a side hall. Past doors labeled staff only. A mirror cracked across its middle. My reflection split in two. One side of me still belonged here. The other never had. You're not under arrest, Calder said. Yet. That's comforting. He handed me a tablet. No hesitation. On screen, a scanned signature. My name. My handwriting. Dated 3 months ago. On a transfer agreement worth $4.6 million. From an LLC tied to my own investment shell to a Delaware trust held by Rowan Hale. I stared. That's not mine, I said. Are you sure? If I forged my own signature, I said, I wouldn't do it that sloppily. He watched me. The timing is convenient. Convenient for whom? He didn't answer. Swipe to the next page. Hospital grant applications. A network of shell corporations. One lead name. EW Holdings. Me. Except none of the authorizations were mine. You're not just a silent investor, he said. You're the center of a fraud case crossing 3 states. You could go down for this. I stepped back. No one's ever gotten away with stealing from me twice. He raised an eyebrow. So they've done it before? 11 years ago, I said. My family stole my name. This time, they tried to sell it. A silence stretched. Then, shouting. Distant. Faint. From the ballroom. Calder's head turned sharply. Then, a rush of footsteps. A server burst in. Breathless. Ms. Winters. The groom is asking for you. Said to bring you back. Urgently. I turned to Calder. He nodded once. Watch them, I said. They're trained to smile while they bury the knife. He followed the server out another door. I returned to the ballroom alone. The lights felt hotter. More invasive. Laughter too forced. Music a decibel too loud. Delaney was no longer by the cake table. Rowan stood near the bar alone. His tie loosened. Jaw clenched. He saw me, and something caved behind his eyes. Ella, he started. You knew, I said. You knew they were using my name. I didn't at first. I swear. At first? He glanced around. Lowered his voice. Your family promised me funding. Said the investor was clean. Quiet. Nostrinas. By the time I found out it was you. You stayed silent. He hesitated. They said you wouldn't come back. They said I didn't exist. I corrected. He stepped closer. Whispered like it burned. They told me you were institutionalized. That you weren't stable. My breath caught. And you believed that? I saw the paperwork. Of course you did. They forge better than they parent. His hand trembled. You don't understand, Ella. If the board finds out my foundation is tied to stolen money, I lose everything. You already lost everything, I said. You just haven't felt it yet. He exhaled like a man slipping underwater. I didn't want this. I just wanted a future. No one ever wants the truth, I said. Just the version that keeps them comfortable. A silence cracked between us. I stepped back. My pulse throbbed in my jaw. Rowan looked like he wanted to run. I almost let him. But instead, I leaned in, voice like cut glass. You married the heir to my family's lies. That means you're one of them now. So tell me the truth. He flinched. What else did they bury under my name?
đã dùng 72% bộ nhớ. Nếu hết bộ nhớ, thì bạn không thể lưu tệp vào đời dài hoặc sử dụng Gmail.
The hallway lights flickered as I stepped out of the ballroom. One beat.
Two.
Then darkness swallowed everything but the hum of my thoughts.
Ivalkid fast.
Heels slicing through velvet carpet. Past the gold-framed wedding photos, the polished mirrors, the door marked private lounge. I didn't slow down. My phone vibrated once. No name, no number, just a link. I clicked it. A video file loaded, grainy, time-stamped. Security cam. Low angle. No sound. But the images. First, my father, entering what looked like a records room at the Hoyt family clinic. Then Delaney,
Same hallway.
holding a manila envelope. Then Rowan, opening the door, taking the envelope, locking the room. And then, my mother, standing at a desk. Glass surface. Paper underneath. She picked up a pen. Slowly, she copied something.
A signature.
My name. I stopped breathing. The camera zoomed, digitally enhanced, catching just enough of the angle to see it. The same signature Calder had shown me. Same slope. Same pressure. Same lie. They didn't just know. They built this. They stole me twice, I whispered. A door creaked. My spine stiffened. Heavy steps behind me.
Carpet.
Then wood. A shift in weight. I turned fast, slipping my phone into my coat. The door shut. Hard. No one outside. Someone inside. A shape. Backlit. Shoulders narrow. Breathing heavy. I stepped back. Fingers grazed a candlestick off the side table. Polished brass. Heavy enough. Show yourself. Silence. Then a voice. It's me. A woman stepped forward. Hair loose. Jacket wrinkled. Eyes wild like she hadn't slept in days. Aunt Maribel? She looked worse than I remembered.
Pale. Thin.
Her mouth trembled like she was trying to hold onto a secret that was eating her alive. They lied to all of us, she said. I know.
No, ella.
You don't. She walked closer, voice lowering. They didn't just forge your name. They forged your status. They filed documents saying you were mentally unfit, that you'd been placed under 24-hour psychiatric care in a Colorado facility. Voluntarily. My throat closed. That's impossible. She held out a folded document. This is a copy of the Federal Declaration. Signed, notarized, sealed. 11 years ago. I opened it with shaky fingers. Dated.
Filed.
Marked under protective status. 5150 equivalent. Non-criminal hold. They erased your existence, Maribel said. Legally. Financially. Medically. I blinked hard. That's why I couldn't access my bank accounts. My old IDs. Why my degrees disappeared off the registry. They made you vanish. I sank into the armchair, knees trembling. The truth settled like frost on glass. Cold. Cracking. Why now? I asked. Why give this to me today? Because you're already in danger. And I can't protect you this time. From what? Maribel hesitated, looked at the door, lowered her voice again. Rowan wasn't just marrying Delaney for love. He was the delivery system. What are you saying? Your family was selling access.
To you.
To your network. Your shell corporations. Your investments. They never thought you'd come back. Her voice cracked. They didn't just forge your signature. They planned to use you until there was nothing left. I stood. The air felt thinner. There was movement outside. A flash passed the frosted glass panel. Someone was listening. I walked to the door, yanked it open. No one there. Just the hallway. And a shadow turning the corner. I turned back to Maribel. Her eyes met mine. Ella, if you want to survive this, you need to disappear them first. My phone buzzed again. A new link. No text. Just a timestamp and a label. Asset transfer, Ella Winters. I tapped it. Bank accounts. Internal memos. A scheduled wire of $2.1 million, moving from an investment fund in my name to a private account under Rowan Hale. It was dated tomorrow. They're moving money through me, I said, and framing me before I can fight back. Maribel nodded slowly. I clenched the candlestick tighter. They didn't erase me from the family, they erased me from the system.
Đã dùng 72% bộ nhớ nếu hết bộ nhớ, thì bạn không thể lưu tệp vào đời dài hoặc sử dụng groom.
The hallway felt colder after Maribel's words, like someone had cracked a window only I could feel. My hands were still clenched around the candlestick, metal warming under my grip, my pulse too loud. They filed you as unstable, Maribel whispered again, as if repetition might soften the blow. A guardianship petition. A voluntary hold. And after that, they stop reporting you entirely. I swallowed hard. Which means legally. You're dead paper, she said. A ghost with a social security number.
A beat.
My breath stuttered. Then the fire alarm shrieked overhead. Red lights strobed through the hallway.
Sharp.
Violent. Not the soft, romantic glow of a wedding. This was evacuation lighting. This was danger lighting. Did you trigger that? I asked. No, Maribel said, grabbing my wrist. Someone wants us separated.
Cut scene.
We ran. Through the corridor. Up the staircase. Toward the row of guest suites where I dropped my coat 2 hours earlier. The air smelled wrong. Burnt plastic. A glitching hallway sconce sprayed sparks above.
Ella, Maribel gasped.
Your room. The door was cracked open. I pushed inside. My suitcase was split on the floor like a gutted animal. Files scattered. Clothing flipped. Laptop case empty.
Kết sắt mini bị nảy khóa, đúng kỹ thuật, không manh động, một người biết cách mở.
Someone had been here. Someone fast. Someone confident. I scanned the bed. A photograph lay dead center on the pillow. I froze. It was me. And Rowan, 10 years younger, laughing in a lab hallway. A picture no one else should have had. My throat tightened. A quote surfaced in my mind, something I once murmured to myself in an airport bathroom. People don't fear the truth. They fear what the truth makes them responsible for. Tonight, everyone in this building was drowning in responsibility they didn't want. Maribel touched the photo with trembling fingers. You think he kept this?
No, I said.
Someone kept it for him. Another strobe of red light. Another shriek of the alarm. Something hissed from the bathroom, a pipe shift, maybe, but the timing was too sharp, too deliberate. We need to leave, Maribel urged. I went to the nightstand. My backup drive should have been there.
Gone.
All of it gone. They cleaned me out, I said, breath unsteady. They knew exactly where to look. Maribel grabbed my shoulders. This is bigger than Delaney. Bigger than Rowan. They're connected to something you invested in. Something they want control over. I pulled away. No one steals my identity and walks out with profit. Not twice.
Cut scene.
My phone buzzed. Another message. Same unknown sender. Just 3 words. You're running out. A tremor ran across my spine. Out of time? Maribel asked. I shook my head. Out of leverage. We stepped back into the hallway. The alarm abruptly stopped. Light flickered. Then went steady. Someone had shut off the system. Too fast. Too smoothly. Only someone with access. Footsteps echoed. Heavy, confident. Coming up the stairwell. I held my breath. A silhouette appeared. Not security. Not Rowan. Not my father. Detective Ames Calder. He reached the top step, eyes locking on mine. His expression wasn't relief. It was confirmation. Ms. Winters, he said. Your room was breached 2 minutes ago. Whoever did it bypassed hotel security. They also disabled your keycard remotely. That's federal-level access, I said. Yes, he replied. It is. Calder stepped into the room. Surveyed the mess. Didn't touch anything. I warned you earlier, he said quietly. Someone's using your name for high-value transfers. Tonight proves they're escalating. They'll keep pushing until you break, or until you're indicted. Not happening. There's more. He hesitated. We found a mandatory report filed in New Hampshire last month. It cites you as a non-compliant ward, the kind of classification only used for individuals under legal guardianship. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. My parents filed that. We're still verifying the signature. But yes, likely. And what does that mean for me legally? His answer was a knife. It means a court could freeze your assets. All accounts. All authority. They can legally strip you of decision-making if the documents hold up. You'd be unable to challenge the fraud. I laughed softly. Bitter. Identity theft dressed as family care. Creative.
Calder studied me.
Ella, they weren't just protecting their clinic. They were positioning themselves as your conservators. If they gained control, they could manage your entire portfolio. Every investment you've made. All 28 companies, I said. He nodded. All of them.
Cut scene.
The hallway light overhead fizzed again. A shadow moved at the end of the corridor. Watching.
Still.
Waiting. Calder noticed. Stepped slightly in front of me. Let's get you downstairs, he said. No, I replied. I'm not hiding. I'm finishing this. I walked past him. Through the ruined room. Toward the balcony door. Snow drifted in violent spirals outside. The storm had arrived. Maribel whispered behind me, Ella, what are you planning? The truth slipped out before I could stop it. I'm ending the fantasy they built. I'm going to expose every forged document, every stolen signature, every transfer. Tonight. That will destroy them. It's time. A cold wind hissed through the balcony rail, almost like agreement. I turned back toward the balcony door and froze. Carved into the frost on the glass, written by a finger. I know what you are. My heart slammed once.
Twice.
Harder. Maribel gasped. Calder reached for his gun. But I didn't move. Because the message wasn't a threat. It was a reminder. They think I'm their puppet. Their ghost. Their asset. But ghosts don't vanish. Ghosts haunt. They declared me crazy to steal everything. Now, they'll learn what a madwoman can do.
Đã dùng 72% bộ nhớ nếu hết bộ nhớ, thì bạn không thể lưu tệp vào đời dài hoặc sử dụng groom.
The ballroom had reset itself like nothing had happened. The fire alarm was silenced. The music was back. Guests clinked glasses under low chandeliers as if they hadn't been 2 seconds from chaos. Rose petals floated through the air like confetti from a dream someone else paid for. But there was tension in the room now. A silent undercurrent. Eyes darted. Faces pinched too tight. Rowan stood by the bar, whispering to Delaney, who was white-knuckling a champagne flute. She was still smiling. But the smile had seams. People always smile right before they fall apart. I moved across the floor. Deliberate. Every step in heels louder than the band's strings. One thought repeated in my head like a drumline. You only get one clean shot. Make it count. Cormac, a former tech partner I'd flown in as backup, stood near the edge of the room. He gave me the slightest nod. The feed was ready. The projector screen flickered on. Delaney had the mic. Her voice rang bright, brittle. I want to thank everyone for being here on the happiest day of my life. To Rowan, my husband, the man who...
She stopped. Turned.
Saw me step up. Saw the screen behind her come alive. Rowan whispered something sharp. Her eyes snapped toward him. Then I took the mic. Guests clapped, confused. Some half expecting a heartfelt sisterly toast. Instead, I said, My name is Ella Winters. I'm the sister they told you didn't exist. Silence. The kind that sticks. The Hoyt family told you I was gone. That I chose to disappear. That I broke under pressure. I turned toward the crowd. They filed me as legally unstable. Took over my estate. Used my name to move millions through fake investments. Delaney lunged. This is insane. I kept talking. And then built this wedding on money that never belonged to them. Behind me, the screen showed the video. Rowan's name on fake documents. My mother's hand practicing my signature. A scanned copy of the guardianship petition, time-stamped and notarized.
Gasps.
Chairs scraped. People whispered, then started recording. Rowan backed up, face hollow. One guest yelled, "Is this real?" Another, "That's criminal." Delaney screamed, "Turn it off." Too late. I turned back to the mic. They erased me to steal from me. But here's the part they didn't expect. I looked directly at Rowan. Sometimes ghosts come back with receipts. Delaney reached for the projector plug. Cormac blocked her. Security moved in. The hotel manager stepped toward the stage, unsure. Rowan finally snapped. "I'll talk," he yelled. Voice cracked. "I have the records." Delaney forged everything. Her father signed off. His confession dropped like a bomb. Someone dropped a glass. Champagne pooled over the floor, like blood. Delaney spun to face him, stunned. "You bastard." He held his hands up, shaking. I didn't know at first. But once I saw the documents, Ella was never unstable. They just needed her gone.
A camera flash.
Then another. A storm of whispers. Then the sirens. Red-blue light poured through the ballroom windows. 2 men in dark suits stepped inside. Badges out. "Federal." "Delaney Hoyt," one said. "You're under investigation for identity theft, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit financial abuse under guardianship law." She screamed. "She's the liar. She's always been." But they cuffed her. Rowan didn't move. Neither did I. My mother fainted behind the dessert table. My father's face collapsed into a fury he couldn't contain. "You ungrateful." I cut him off. "You never owned me. You just leased my silence." They dragged Delaney out. Her veil trailed like a white flag behind her. Guests parted like oil over water. I stood on the stage. Under the projector. Under the lights. Under the weight of everything I'd buried for 11 years. And I said one thing. They wanted me erased. Now, I'm carved into history.
Đã dùng 72% bộ nhớ nếu hết bộ nhớ, thì bạn không thể lưu tệp vào đời dài hoặc sử dụng Gmail.
3 days later, the wedding flowers were still dying in the snow. I stood at the edge of the garden, behind the Grafton Inn. The wind had knocked over half the chairs. The arch was crooked, dragging roses like bruises against white. Maribel handed me coffee. Her fingers shook. Not from cold. From the weight of everything that hadn't been said for a decade. "They've all lawyered up," she murmured. "Of course they have." Delaney's pleading diminished capacity. "Your father's blaming your mother. Your mother's not speaking." Silence was always her greatest skill. The wind shifted. Maribel's coat flapped like wings too tired to fly. "Ella," she said, voice careful. "What are you going to do now?" I looked up. The clouds had finally started to break. "I'm going to outlive them," I said. "Not in years. In impact." Maribel gave a dry laugh. "That sounds like something her father would have said." "I'm not trying to be better than them," I replied. "I'm trying to be nothing like them."
Cut scene.
Inside, the federal agents were still packing evidence. Rowan had confessed everything under pressure. The bank trail matched every name Ella had traced. Offshore accounts, shell companies, redacted documents. They'd used her as a financial phantom. Now they had to answer to a system they once manipulated. But power never dies quietly.
Cut scene.
I entered the dining room. Calder stood near the fireplace, flipping through a warrant. "Asset freeze on Hoyt Medical Group is in motion," he said. "Delaney's shares are suspended. Your name has been cleared from the guardianship database. And the accounts?" He looked up. "Yours are unfrozen. Everything they moved through you is traceable." "I want it all donated," I said. "Every stolen cent." "To who?" "To survivors like me." He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "You were never the unstable one," he said. "Just the most inconvenient."
Cut scene.
Later, I walked through the corridor where I'd seen the cracked mirror. The glass had been replaced. Too clean now. Too artificial. No trace of the reflection I once saw there, the fractured version of myself. The girl they buried in paperwork. Maybe that was the only funeral this family ever succeeded at, burying me under red tape and sign lies. But here I was, breathing, moving, Still inconvenient. Still here. A whisper from one of the staff followed me as I walked toward the front doors. Is that the sister who? Yeah, someone answered. The one they tried to erase.
Cut scene.
That night, I sat in my hotel room. Alone. No team. No legal briefings. Just me. A single lamp on. A new phone buzzed beside me. Message from an unknown number. They're watching again. No punctuation. Just enough menace to make it real. I didn't reply. I shut the phone off. Slid it into the drawer. Because this time, I wasn't afraid of being seen. Let them watch. Let them see what survival looks like without apology. Let them learn that ghosts don't haunt out of vengeance. They haunt to remind you who failed to bury them deep enough. I opened my laptop. Clicked into a draft. A memoir. Working title. Legally Dead. And I typed the first line without hesitation. They didn't just steal my name. They stole the story, so I'm writing it back, one chapter at a time. Some of us don't get happy endings. But we get true ones. They wanted war. They should have buried me deeper.